Hey guys, welcome to the Actery Magic channel. I'm Steve, the Actery. Today is a one take. I'm going to record this video as quickly as I can from my cousin David. David, welcome to the game of EDH. I wanted to send this out to you so you'd understand exactly what I was going for whenever I put together this list. So without further ado, let's talk about Phenax. So if you're not familiar with Phenax, Phenax is a commander. Sorry, that's not Phenax. He's commander. He is a 4/7 indestructible, 1 black, 1 blue, and 3 generic indestructible. As long as your devotion to blue and black is less than 7, Phenax isn't a creature. Cool. Creatures you control have tap. Target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is this creature's toughness. So, what do we want to do with this? I personally want to tap creatures with really, really big butts. I cannot lie. Anyway, just kidding. So, I want small creatures with a big toughness, like cheap creatures with a big toughness. So let's take a look at this because we want to mill our opponents out. There's other stuff that we can do in this game, but we're going to abuse the fact that we can tap our cheap creatures to start milling people and removing their answers from the game. So first off, I want to talk about one of the Hedron Crab is one of the tried and true mill mechanics in the world, but there was recently a commander version of this crab that got basically better for commander, because now Ruin Crab says whenever a land enters battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. So not only can we tap Ruin Crab to, with Phenax in play, tap and mill somebody for 3, we're also milling somebody for everyone for 3 whenever we have a land entering the battlefield. So Ruin Crab, it's an auto include in a Phenax build. Additionally, a lot of our budget cards are like Jace's Phantasm. This is going to be a 5/5 for 1 blue mana, 5/5 flying for 1 blue mana. If one of our opponents has 10 or more cards in their graveyard, which is going to be stupid easy with this deck. Next up, I want to talk about kind of the other. This is one of probably the cheapest, like. Why would you have this card in your deck? Well, it's going to tap and give our creatures haste, so we can immediately tap them for Phenax's ability. So that's why we're going to include this card in the deck. Additionally, we're also going to be playing 1 copy of Lightning Greaves to equip to our creatures and tap, and then for Phenax's bottom ability. Next up, let's talk about, and by the way, if there's a creature in here that's a budget creature, like a common and uncommon, mostly it's for its utility or to be tapping for to use Phenax's ability. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about our transmute cards. So the transmute mechanic is a unique to a blue-black color scheme that we can take advantage of because we are in blue-black naturally with Phenax. So let's talk about them. We have 3 copies of a transmute cards that will go and get converted mana cost 2, and let me explain this really quick. Dimir Infiltrator, we don't really care about casting Dimir Infiltrator. We'd rather use the transmute ability, but he is a 1 black, 1 blue, 1/3, can't be blocked. Okay, transmute, 1 generic, 1 black, 1 blue. It says, discard this card, search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. Transmute only as a sorcery. So for 3 mana, we can go tutor for anything with converted mana cost of 2. What does that mean? It means that we can now go and get things like, where is it? Things like Feed the Swarm, which is destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls, you lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. Enchantment removal is very rare in black and blue, so this is a very important card in our deck. Also, what we can go and get with this is Graveyard Hate, and I picked Dauthi Voidwalker. Where are you, buddy? Dauthi Voidwalker is a 2 black 3/2 shadow. If a creature would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a void counter on it. So we can go and find Graveyard Hate with our transmuting cards. It says, but here's the real kicker. Tap, sacrifice Dauthi Voidwalker. Choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. Oh my goodness, this is stupid. If you've never played with this card, it's dumb. It's going to eat removal very quickly, but if you get a Lightning Greaves on it, they're just stuck. It's so good. Next up, what else we can find with our transmute for 2 converted mana cost is White of Precinct 6. White of Precinct 6 gets +1/1 for each card in our opponent's graveyards. So with Phenax in play, we can tap it for stupid. It's like if this is a 10/10, it says each opponent's graveyard. This can easily be a 20/20, 30/30 because of the mill strategy we're in. Okay, so this can tap and just mill an opponent's library for 30 or 20 points of, aside from just swinging or attacking at somebody. Very good. Next up, it can also find us our kill conditions, like to finish our opponents off in case we can't mill them out with our Phenax ability, and that is stuff like Maddening Cacophony is a 2-drop that says each opponent mills 8 cards. If its spell was kicked, each opponent instead mills half their library rounded up. So this can be a 6-drop, mill half your library. So very, very good. So again, we can go and find this. The last part I wanted to mention with this transmute for 2 is we can also go and find board wipe with Black Sun Zenith, because technically Black Sun Zenith in our library is a converted mana cost of 2, and then we can says 2 black and X, put X 1/1 counters on each creature, shuffle Black Sun Zenith back into its owner's library. So we're going to get value from it down the line, but we can go and find it immediately with our transmute cards. So this is kind of a toolbox, if you will. Next up, we have our transmute cards at the 3 converted mana cost, and there's only 2 of them, and that is, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Drift of Phantasms. We'll go and find something converted mana cost of 3, and then our instant is Perplex, which will counter a spell unless its controller discards his or her hand. So that'll also go and find things for 3. Things that we want to go find for 3 are things like Bruvak, the Grand Delinquent, whatever. He's a 3-drop 1/4. He says an opponent would mill 1 or more cards. They mill twice that many cards instead. So if you're going to mill somebody for 8, with this guy in play, you're going to mill them for 16. Super good. Also, we can find, if we want to start tapping our things at instant speed, we can find 1,000-Year Elixir. And we can also find, there's another one that's really cool I like. It prevents them from really attacking big into us, like attacking wide, so if they have a lot of 1/1s. Riddle Keeper. It says whenever a creature you or attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller puts the top 2 cards of his or her library. If they attack with 10 goblins, they're going to put 20 cards from their library into their graveyard. Sweet. Next up, we can find one of my favorite cards in this build is called, where are you, my buddy? Ashiok Dreamrender. It's a 3-drop generic black-white, generic blue-black, generic blue-black, and generic, whatever. You get my point. It's a 5 loyalty spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause their controller to search their library. This is so good. There's so many tutors in Commander, and this shuts off all of their fetch lands, all of their tutors. It's just great. And it says target opponent puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, then exile each opponent's graveyard. This is just ridiculously good. Granted, it gets rid of their graveyard, so some of our mechanics get shut off, but we don't care because Ashiok is just so good. Next up, let's talk about going infinite with this deck. We have one infinite combo that I'm aware of in this deck, and that is with, let's see, where is it at? Mind Crank, I'm sure you're familiar, is a 2-drop artifact. Whenever an opponent loses life, that player puts that many cards from the top of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So this is just value for people that are around the table getting attacked by each other. That's awesome. But let's also talk about Duskmantle Guildmage. So whenever an opponent loses life, they mill that many cards. Okay. Duskmantle Guildmage is a 1 blue, 1 black, 2/2. It says 1 generic, 1 black, 1 blue. Whenever a card is put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, that player loses 1 life. So with Mind Crank, if they lose life, they mill a card. Duskmantle Guildmage, you activate it. It says whenever they mill a card, they lose 1 life. So you go infinitely kill that person. And you need some triggers. So they either need to mill a card or they lose a life. But as soon as they do, they mill themselves to death. They take infinite damage. Game over, dude. So good. Now, there are some cards that I want to mention that I think are for your own safety. That would be things like Lightning Greaves, we've already talked about. Another one is just a big baddie, big fatty, is Consuming Aberration. I really like that card. Dreamborn Muse is just going to hurt them really bad, but this is also going to hurt us, so we might mill over some good cards. This is one of the cards I think you might take out. Fog Bank, it's just good business. It just helps prevent people from swinging big into you. They need trample or unblockable to really get in damage, so this is a good early game. Plus we can tap it and mill somebody for 2 at the end of somebody's turn with Phenax. Very, very good. Another one that does the exact same thing but it's for 3 is Guard of Gamazoa, and prevents all combat damage to be dealt to Guard of Gamazoa, defender with flying. It's good. Gyruda is going to reanimate cards from our opponent's libraries, or graveyards technically, and it also mills our opponents. Another one is Kelpie Guide. This is going to untap another target permanent we control so that we can mill them again. King Macar is one that's really cool. It's a inspired card. There's 2 inspired cards actually in this list, and this is one of them. It says, whenever King Macar, the gold curse becomes untapped, you may exile target creature. If you do, put a colorless artifact token named gold onto the battlefield. It has sacrificed this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So this is really good. We tap it with Phenax, we untap for the turn, and then we get the inspired trigger. That also goes really well. There's another one down here. It's Siren of the Silent Song. Whenever it becomes untapped, each opponent discards a card and puts a card from the top of his or her library into his or her graveyard. This is pure value. I mean, like hitting everyone's hand for 1 discard is such good value. Let's see, Tree of Perdition. We can use it for that exchange life total, but we're going to be more than likely tapping and milling somebody for 13 with Phenax in play. Then we have some protect ourselves things with Propaganda. It's a 1 blue, 2 generic. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. Great. Another one that protects us is Aetherize. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Very, very good. Drown the Lock is a good counterspell. It's a black and a blue. It says counter target spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard, or destroy a target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. Very cool. Loomduel's Vault is an all-around, I need to find this card, I need to find this card right now. I'm going to go find this card right now. And we're going to look at the top 5 cards of our our library. If we don't find the card we want there, we'll pay another life and put those cards on the bottom, or shuffle, and then look at the next top 5. Shuffle, look at the next top 5. So every time we do that, we pay 1 life. It's very, very good. It's instant speed, right on target for what we're wanting to do with this deck. Next up, our mana base is a budget mana base. By all means, upgrade that at your leisure. And then the card that you were talking about, David, is Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until that player has exiled cards with mana value, total mana value of 20 or more. This is not as impactful in Commander because mana values are so much higher in Commander than they are in Standard or in Modern, but it's still a damn fine card. Anyway, guys, I hope you like that. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is a one-shot, one-take. Let's get it out there. All right, guys, have a good afternoon. Deuces.